everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, and you know what time it is. It's time to talk about AEW Dynamite, because this was a stacked one, I'm not going to lie. This was a really stacked show with a lot of things going on, which I guess is the right way to come out of a pay-per-view, isn't it? Maybe interest's a little bit higher coming off the back of Double or Nothing. Let's give the fans a show with just everything in it and see what happens. But how good was that show? There's only one way to find out, and that is by assigning each individual segment just a marvelous individual grade. So without any further ado, let's take a look at AEW Dynamite Graded. We start the show with the Inner Circle chilling backstage, and they are sad because they lost the Stadium Stampede match at Double or Nothing. Aww. Is it just me, or, you know, despite the Inner Circle being horrible heels who've done terrible things since, like, the start of Dynamite, really, did they come across as quite sympathetic in this episode? I couldn't help but feel sorry for the boys. But anyway, they say, well, we're gonna have to find a way to shill these t-shirts that we ordered, and it turns out they'd mass ordered t-shirts with Stadium Stampede champions or winners or something on it. The t-shirts look rubbish, but I genuinely want one. They've got a whole truckload to try and sell. And yeah, this segment was too short to give a grade to itself, but we will see more of the Inner Circle later on. Those poor little guys. We then get our opening match of the show, Matt Hardy teaming with the Young Bucks in six-man action against Private Party and Joey Janela. And Matt Hardy, by the Bucks' request, has transformed into a younger version of himself. He wants to do some flips. He asks them if they want to be spot monkeys. They're like, yeah, we do, Matt Hardy. So that's what we're going to get. Hardy and the Bucks take control early on. It just looks like they're all having a great time. They're all having a great time being friends together. But Joey Janela helps turn the tide with a big Death Valley driver onto Nick Jackson on the outside. And then Janela looks in the camera and goes, he's gonna puke. So there's a Vince McMahon reference for us all. But Nick Jackson fights back, throws a super kick, Janela ducks, and it hits the Blade, who is in the front row. This starts a brawl in the crowd between the Young Bucks and the Butcher and the Blade, which the Young Bucks win. For now. Towards the end of the match, Private Party hit big stereo dives over the top rope onto the Young Bucks, but Mark Quinn comes up clutching his leg. It looks like he may have injured it. That means that it's basically 3-on-2, and it's not long before Matt Hardy and the Bucks isolate Isaiah Cassidy and pin him for the win. But it's not over yet because, well, first of all, Matt Hardy's very sporting. He helps Mark Quinn limp to the back, and that leaves the Young Bucks alone in the ring where they are jumped by the Butcher and the Blade. And then, just as we're wondering who's going to come and save the day, we hear the screech of tires as, in a very Cody Rhodes-esque way, a truck just drives like a little way into Daly's place. Doesn't really knock over anything this time. It screeches to a halt fairly comfortably and safely. But I'm more interested in who gets out of that truck, and it's none other than Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler, formerly known, of course, as The Revival in WWE, now known as FTR in AEW. They finally made their debut. The pair get in the ring. It looks for a second like they're going to join in with this beatdown of the Young Bucks, which I kind of want, because I want to see the Bucks versus FTR, but instead they turn slowly around and instead just go for the heels. It looks like these are good guys right now, at the moment anyway. FTR clear the ring. They share kind of a wary glance with the Young Bucks, and then they get out and head off into the sunset, and I don't know what's going to happen from here. This opening segment gets an A- grade from me. I thought the match was decent enough, pretty fun, loads of high spots and stuff because it's the Bucks and young Matt Hardy-ish. But I don't know why they didn't go the obvious route with FTR. Why didn't they just jump the Young Bucks at some point? Why did we have to kind of have them introduced as baby faces? But I suppose we just have to all wait and see what's going to happen, because I think AEW would be very foolish not to kind of immediately reference the animosity and the years of social media hate between FTR and the Young Bucks, and I'm pretty confident that they are going to do so, probably from next week. Next up, the AEW World Champion Jon Moxley is on guest commentary for a match between Brian Cage, accompanied of course by Taz, and poor Lee Johnson. I won't beat around the bush. Brian Cage wins, and Lee Johnson gets absolutely destroyed. Taz gets on the mic afterwards and says that at Fyter Fest, Brian Cage is going to reach into Jon Moxley's chest and rip out his heart. And then, to the delight of many, Taz busts out his old catchphrase saying, defeat Brian Cage if you can, survive if he lets you. Moxley doesn't seem too concerned on commentary, but he does look focused. I'm going to give this match and segment a B+ grade. First of all, Lee Johnson is a wonderful bumper and seller, and proved that again in this match against Brian Cage. Taz with a really good promo as well. style, kind of like Paul Heyman, but a little bit rougher around the edges, which just fits Taz, I suppose. It fits Taz more to speak in a slightly less polished way than it would Paul Heyman, but there were certainly echoes of Paul Heyman's act here, which I thought was a good move, and I enjoyed it for what it was. Looking forward to that match. Yeah, this segment gets a B+. Next up, Tony Schiavone is on the stage with a microphone for the third installment of, what's it called again? The Rules of Being a Role Model with Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, this time wheeled out onto the stage because she's injured by Reba, her makeup artist. Reba, of course, is Rebel from Impact, but we're calling her Reba here. Britt says the rule for this week is don't hurt the role model. She references her injury on last week's Dynamite and blames all 3 other women in the match. She says this was a conspiracy engineered by not only her opponents, Kris Statlander and Hikaru Shida, but also by her partner, Nyla Rose. She doesn't even stop there. She says that everything connects in the middle. This is a web of evil, and at the center of that web is none other, and I really enjoyed this, it's none other than official Aubrey Edwards. Britt says she's putting everybody on notice and she will be back at All Out in September. And then she turns to wheel away, and on the back of her wheelchair it says role model, role model. This gets a B+ grade. It's a shame to see Britt Baker out for so long, but she is fantastic on the mic once again. She's improved so quickly on the mic. Remember when she wasn't that good at the start, and then by the next week she was just awesome and has improved week on week since then. Because of that, I think she'll be all right despite being on the sideline. She's the sort of wrestler who can still provide something to the show without physically being a part of the action. I hope she continues this feud with Aubrey Edwards as well, because it has the potential to be really, really funny, especially if Aubrey has just no idea what's going on or why she's being accused of this. I think this could be one to keep an eye on. Next up, the new AEW Women's Champion, Hikaru Shida, taking on Christi Jaynes, who's kind of a dancing, she's doing like a Brazilian carnival type thing, but she's a heel as well. So it was a little bit confusing at first. But then I think that what Christi did was use her dancing and her good nature to lure Shida into a false sense of security and then go, surprise, I'm a heel really. No way Jose should try that. Anyway, Jaynes does get quite a lot here. Hikaru Shida has the more impactful offense by far, but at the same time, Christi Jaynes dishes out some of her own and kicks out of quite a lot. The match goes about 5 minutes, which is way longer than I was expecting, which I think is a good thing because we already had that Brian Cage squash match early on. 2 in a row would have been less effective. And also, she kicks out of a big running knee to the back of the head, and that forces Shida to put her away instead with a Falcon Arrow. It was decent stuff. So yeah, this gets a B grade, no complaints here. Shida celebrates at the end, and JR on commentary says, I follow Shida on Twitter, and she celebrated her title win on Saturday by eating a whole pint of ice cream. Cheers, Jim. Next up, here comes Cody, the inaugural TNT champion, to announce his plans for the future. At ringside, something weird's going on though. Brandy Rhodes is angry at QT Marshall because he's not cheering for Cody as he makes his entrance. He's distracted by, I think it was Ali, by Ali stood next to him. Apparently this has been happening on Dark as well. What's going on with QT? Is he going to get recruited by the Butcher and the Blade? The dirty man. Cody gets on the mic and says, Tony, do you know why Tom Brady is my favorite quarterback? Just immediately gets booed by the crowd. He says, it's not because I'm from the New England area. I don't even think I'm welcome back in Connecticut. There's the second little shot of Vince McMahon of the night, if you're keeping count. He says, no, it's because Tom Brady was not a high draft pick at all. And Cody says he relates to that. He feels the same because when AEW was being set up, he wasn't the first guy that Tony Khan called. He wasn't the second. He wasn't even the third. He says that he is not an uber naturally talented guy. He says that he doesn't have the dominant genes in his family. He says that Dustin Rhodes got all of Dusty within him. But Cody says that his mother is the one who taught him that hard work beats talent any day of the week. Cody vows to outpace, outdog, whatever that means, own more dogs than, I think. And I think Cody's got 3, so he's doing quite well there. And outwork anybody who stands across the ring from him. And for that reason, Cody is announcing the TNT Open Challenge, which means that every week he'll defend the belt against somebody different. I'm really excited for this. This promo gets an A- from me. The content of it was good. Cody is always a good promo, but it wasn't all fireworks and thunder like when he's building up to a big heated pay-per-view match, but it was more composed. I think that was probably the right decision, and I really enjoy the booking here. I really enjoy the idea of this weekly Open Challenge. Remember John Cena's Open Challenges for the US title on Raw? Those were really, really good. And I'd like to see something in a similar sort of vein, maybe giving a shot to some of the less appreciated members of the AEW roster. Next up, Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc, accompanied of course by Penelope Ford, taking on SCU, Frankie Kazarian and Scorpio Sky. The heels jump the faces before the bell, but then the faces take control because they're just tougher and more grizzled men than these soft boys from England. The first half of this match has a bit of an unorthodox pattern really, with the baby faces isolating one of the heels and dominating through constant quick tags and teamwork and double teaming. It seems like the traditional alignments have kind of been reversed, but it works because SCU aren't doing anything heelish, they're abiding by all the rules. And likewise, when the heels are making their big comeback eventually, they are breaking all of the rules, which makes total sense. They distract the ref, and then Kazarian gets slingshotted into an eye poke from Jimmy Havoc. Comedy. In the end, it looks like SCU have got the win. They set up Jimmy Havoc for the SCU later, but on the outside, Penelope Ford grabs Frankie Kazarian's leg, stopping him from hitting the move. This allows Kip Sabian to knock him out of the ring, and then the heels hit their double team move. It's kind of a shotgun dropkick into a Michinoku driver from Jimmy Havoc, and that's enough to get them the arguably upset win. This gets a B+ grade, good action, and a very interesting and bold booking decision. I'm really interested to see what is next for Sabian and Havoc. It's now time for the Battle Royal to determine the first open challengee of Cody Rhodes' TNT Championship, so whoever wins the Battle Royal faces Cody for the belt next week. But before that, we have a video promo from MJF. Wardlow is of course by MJF's side. MJF says that in the Battle Royal, Wardlow is going to have his back, and then when they're the final two, Wardlow is going to eliminate himself. Wardlow goes, but, and then MJF's like, he just loses it and gets in Wardlow's face. Wardlow is obviously angry, so MJF goes, I'm just joking, come on, let's get down to the ring, you wee scamp. I've just listed all of the entrants in this Battle Royal. I won't be going over all the eliminations because there were quite a lot, but the entrants were MJF, of course, Wardlow, Luther, Avalon, Brandon Cutler, Christopher Daniels, all three members of Jurassic Express, Sonny Kiss, Colt Cabana, Billy Gunn from the crowd, wow. Orange Cassidy's the final entrant, but he gets jumped by Santana and Ortiz as he's making his entrance because he wandered inadvertently, or maybe deliberately, into an Inner Circle promo backstage. One of the early moments in this match saw Luther grab Marco Stunt and just hit an awful chokeslam on him. Like, it looked really nasty. Stunt nearly landed on his head, or maybe did. But Luchasaurus got revenge for his buddy by chokeslamming Luther out of the ring, onto the apron, and then out of the match. Another interesting thing to note is that Colt Cabana gets eliminated by Billy Gunn and then is handed a Dark Order flyer on the outside of the ring. Ooh, could we be getting heel Colt Cabana? Very interesting. And of course, we have to talk about the antics of MJF and Wardlow, who do survive the majority of this match by just being awful men. At one point, Wardlow eliminates Sonny Kiss, and then MJF gets under the bottom rope and just puts a few extra boots into Sonny Kiss because he can. A little bit later on, Billy Gunn and Luchasaurus are squaring off near the ropes, so Wardlow and MJF sneak up and topple both of the fan favourites out. It seems like we're down to three with Wardlow, MJF and Jungle Boy left in the ring, but here comes Orange Cassidy, finally recovered from the beatdown at the start, to crawl under the bottom rope and enter the match. MJF's immediately not happy about this. Wardlow holds Orange Cassidy in position. MJF goes to clock him with the Dynamite Diamond Ring, and of course Orange Cassidy ducks, and MJF clocks Wardlow right in the face. MJF is aghast, he charges at Orange Cassidy, Cassidy moves, and Jungle Boy backdrops MJF out of the ring and out of the match. The two remaining babyfaces then team up on a very dazed Wardlow, tip him out the ring, and then have a nice little exchange between themselves for a minute or two before Jungle Boy launches himself into like a jumping Hurricane Rana, catches himself on the top rope, and flips Orange Cassidy out of the ring. This one gets a B+ grade from me. Not enthralling action, but really good booking, I think, all the way throughout, with various different stories happening, and also a really good choice of winner, I think, as well. Obviously, Jungle Boy will face Cody next week, and I think that could be an excellent match. And of course, I'm also really interested to see what happens between MJF and Wardlow in the coming weeks. And I just love it if Wardlow got like the Batista storyline, like turns on him. In fact, that's hopefully what's going to happen. And finally, we get the Inner Circle Pep Rally. What a segment this was. So we start things with cheerleaders and drummers, and it's all very like American. I don't know what's going on, but what are you like, America? One of the cheerleaders is Vickie Guerrero, who shouts, "Are you kidding me?" several times, which I guess is the new "excuse me," which, I mean, have WWE trademarked excuse? I don't really understand what's going on. Vickie introduces all the members of the Inner Circle. Ortiz still can't hear from the big bell ringing spot in the Stadium Stampede match, which is a nice touch. And of course, Sammy Guevara, for what feels like the third week in a row after a big match, has been reduced to crutches. They all get in the ring and basically try and cheer each other up. First of all, they throw those wrong Stadium Stampede Champions t-shirts out into the crowd. The crowd throw the t-shirts back and they're all like, oh God, we didn't even win the match. They're really being humiliated here. It's very funny to see. But they've all brought gifts for each other to cheer each other up. For example, Sammy Guevara has bought everybody participation trophies, which is amazing. Santana brought another Puerto Rican / New York City gift basket, including some suspiciously knockoff looking Timberlands for Big Jake Hager. Jericho got Sammy Guevara a scooter for him to get around on while he's injured, and also got Ortiz some noise-cancelling headphones to try and solve his hearing issues. Really good leadership there from Chris Jericho, you have to say. And Jake Hager reads a poem. It's called Happiness. I'm not going to try and recite it here because it's brilliant, but happy isn't really the term I would associate with it. It's so good. It's really good. He gets way too angry at one point and Jericho has to stop him and be like, all right, Jake, thank you. That was a lovely poem there. And then Sammy says to Jericho, Chris, what do you want? And Jericho says, I want Mike Tyson's head on a platter. Oh, that's because Jericho hasn't forgotten about in WWE 10 years ago when Mike Tyson knocked him out. He demands that Tyson get in the ring and apologise to him. And yeah, obviously this is going to go well. Tyson comes out with his entourage, one of whom is UFC pioneer Vitor Belfort, who was obviously in attendance at Double or Nothing. They didn't make as much of a big deal about him being there as Tyson, but he was certainly still there in the crowd. They all get in the ring, Tyson gets in Jericho's face, and it's really awkward. Like, I don't know if Tyson understands the ebb and flow of wrestling, but he's been involved in it for a while, so I don't really know what was going on. It's all a bit strange. The two sets of entourages, the two groups start pushing and shoving and shouting at each other. Jericho demands that Tyson apologizes. Tyson rips his shirt off, but it's bad. It's really bad. He ends up basically just kind of wearing the rags of his t-shirt as it just falls around him and gets right in Jericho's face and flexes, and Jericho's trying his best to hold the segment together. He's like, yeah, you look great, just wait a second, just wait, let me get my lines out. You can tell he really wants to say that. Tyson refuses to apologize and instead shoves Jericho, so Jericho hits the ropes and shoves him back, and the brawl is on, and oh man, it's weird. They're clearly trying to replicate the magic of like the whole Tyson and Austin back in the Attitude Era, but that was more of a John Laurinaitis impression than JR. Don't know what I'm doing there. Yeah, but I don't know how effective it really is, especially when Jericho seems to hit almost like a shoot right hand into the face of one of Tyson's entourage, and JR goes, right hander Vitor Belfort. It's not Vitor Belfort, he's on the other side of the scuffle. It's just some dude. Eventually, Cody and some baby faces come out to break up the scuffle and to drag Tyson away, and that's the end of the show. I don't know. I'm gonna give it a B grade because it's very much a segment of two halves. The first half, with the Inner Circle being hilarious, was brilliant, absolutely genius, as the Inner Circle so often are. The second half with Tyson was a little bit messy and a little bit weird. Didn't really feel like the closing of an AEW show. It was a little bit strange, and I just wasn't that big a fan of it. However, we'll see where it goes, and the strength of the Inner Circle in this segment, as charismatic as they all are, does carry it to a B grade, I think. So overall, what does this show get? I think originally I was going to give it an A-, but that confusing ending drags it down to a B+ for me. I just don't know if they're wise to be trying to replicate the whole Tyson and Austin thing of years and years gone by, when they've got so much other stuff, so much good inventive positives about their product to be really focusing on. But on the positive side, I think this week had decent action throughout. I thought it had really good booking throughout. We've got little storylines popping off everywhere, like MJF and Wardlow, what's going to happen there. We've got Jungle Boy challenging Cody, of course. We had further hype added to Brian Cage versus Jon Moxley. I think it's all looking really good. AEW was so good at juggling multiple storylines, but making each one still feel important, and I think that's why their pay-per-views are often so good. So there you have it. This show gets a B+, a decent episode of Dynamite, but probably one that could have been better. Maybe if that ending segment was just a little bit more polished. However, God, it was so awkward. However, that is it for this week's episode of AEW Dynamite Graded. Let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. Stay safe out there, keep yourself positive, and I'll see you very soon.